Whispers of the Old House. It was a crisp autumn morning when I received the invitation from my colleague Claire. We had forged a friendship during late-night project sessions at the office, bonding over our shared love for classic literature and vintage horror films. Claire had recently moved into a grand old house, a Victorian masterpiece nestled on the outskirts of town, and she eagerly invited me for a weekend stay. "Come see my new place. It's like stepping into a novel," she had said, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Intrigued by the charm of her invitation, I accepted without hesitation. When I arrived at Claire's home, I was taken aback by its beauty. The house towered above the trees, its gabled roof and ornate woodwork giving it an enchanting presence. As I stepped inside, the scent of polished wood and faint floral notes enveloped me. It was like entering a time capsule, where every corner whispered stories of the past. Claire welcomed me with a warm hug, her enthusiasm infectious. She led me through the house, pointing out the intricate details, the stained glass windows, the winding staircase, and the expansive library filled with dusty tomes. "Isn't it wonderful?" she beamed, her pride evident. As night fell, the house transformed. Shadows danced along the walls, and a chill crept into the air. After dinner, we settled in the living room, sipping tea and sharing ghost stories. Claire's laughter filled the space, but a lingering unease settled in my stomach. I brushed it off as nerves. After all, it was an old house in an unfamiliar setting. Later, as I made my way to the guest room, I noticed how the floorboards creaked beneath my feet. The hallway felt longer in the dim light, the walls closing in. I tried to shake off the sensation, but the feeling of being watched gnawed at me. Once in bed, sleep eluded me. Every time I shut my eyes, they flew open again, heart racing. The room, though lovely with its antique furnishings, felt like it harbored secrets. I told myself it was merely my overactive imagination, but the feeling persisted. I turned on the bedside lamp, illuminating the room in a soft glow, hoping to ward off the darkness lurking in the corners. As I drifted into a restless sleep, dreams pulled me into a surreal realm. In one particularly vivid dream, I found myself standing at the top of the grand staircase, a sense of weightlessness enveloping me. With arms outstretched, I leapt off the landing, soaring through the air. Just as my feet left the step, a jolt of fear jolted me awake, leaving my heart pounding and a chill running down my spine. Morning light filtered through the curtains, bathing the room in warmth, but the dread from the night clung to me. At breakfast, I recounted my bizarre dream to Claire, her fork frozen in midair, mouth agape. "What?" I asked, perplexed by her reaction. She hesitated, then shared the house's dark history. The woman who lived here before me. She died after falling down those stairs. My blood ran cold. The dream that had felt so surreal now took on an unsettling significance. I could feel the weight of the house's past pressing in around me. Determined to uncover the truth, I spent the day with Claire exploring the house and its surroundings. I noticed subtle signs that hinted at the supernatural. A whisper in the hallway, a fleeting shadow in the corner of my eye. Claire laughed off my concerns, assuring me the house was simply full of character. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were not alone. That night, I decided to investigate the staircase. Armed with a flashlight, I climbed the steps cautiously, each creak echoing in the stillness. When I reached the top, I felt a chill envelop me, as if the air thickened with anticipation. I stood at the edge of the landing, peering down into the darkness below. Suddenly, a soft whisper echoed around me. "Help me!" The sound sent shivers down my spine, and I stumbled back, nearly losing my footing. My heart raced as I turned to leave, the whisper fading into silence. The next morning, I shared my experience with Claire, who was fascinated by the strange occurrences. Together, we delved into the history of the house, uncovering its tragic past. The previous owner, Margaret, had been a reclusive woman known for her affinity with the supernatural. Whispers of her death circulated in town, tales of a fall that some believed to be an accident, while others whispered of something darker. Intrigued and slightly terrified, we decided to investigate further. We visited the local library, digging through archives and newspapers. There we found a faded article detailing Margaret's death, describing how she had fallen from the stairs during a violent storm. The storm had raged that night, and neighbors claimed they heard screams echoing through the winds, but no one had reached her in time. As we pieced together the details, Claire and I became convinced that Margaret's spirit lingered in the house, trapped by the circumstances of her death. With each passing hour, the atmosphere grew heavier. I noticed that Claire had begun to act strangely, often gazing into the distance as if listening to someone only she could hear. One night, as we prepared for bed, I heard her murmuring softly to herself, "You're not alone, Margaret. We're here with you." I confronted her, concern etched on my face. "Claire, who are you talking to?" She blinked as if waking from a trance and shrugged it off. "Just trying to connect. I feel her presence." That night I dreamt again. This time the dream was more vivid. Margaret stood before me, her face pale and sorrowful. "Help me," she whispered, her voice echoing in my mind. "I cannot leave until my story is told." I awoke with a sense of purpose, determined to help Margaret find peace. I shared my dream with Claire, and together, we devised a plan. We would host a seance to communicate with her spirit, hoping to unravel the mystery of her death and allow her to move on. As night fell, we prepared the living room, lighting candles and arranging a circle of chairs. Claire's excitement mingled with my trepidation as we invited any spirits present to join us. The air felt electric, charged with anticipation. "Margaret, if you're here, please make your presence known," I called out, heart racing. Moments later, the candles flickered violently, and a sudden chill swept through the room. We felt a presence, a palpable energy that danced around us. "I am here," a voice resonated, echoing through the room. My heart pounded as I realized we had connected with Margaret. Through the seance, Margaret revealed the truth of her death. She had been arguing with a visitor that stormy night, a man she had trusted, who had betrayed her. In a fit of rage, he had pushed her down the stairs. "I didn't fall. I was pushed," she declared, the sorrow in her voice palpable. Tears streamed down Claire's cheeks as she listened to Margaret's story, and I felt a surge of anger towards the man who had taken her life. "We will help you find justice," I vowed, feeling a responsibility to honor her memory. After the seance, Claire and I were more determined than ever to seek justice for Margaret. We scoured public records, hunting for any evidence of the man who had betrayed her. The deeper we dug, the more we uncovered a web of deceit, lies, and hidden truths that surrounded Margaret's life. We discovered that the man had been a known con artist, preying on wealthy women in the area. Margaret had been his last victim. Fueled by a mix of anger and determination, we reported our findings to the authorities. As the investigation gained momentum, I felt a shift in the house. Margaret's spirit seemed to grow more at peace, her whispers fading to gentle echoes. Weeks passed, and finally the authorities arrested the man responsible for Margaret's death. Claire and I were filled with a sense of accomplishment, knowing we had brought justice to her memory. The day he was taken into custody, I sensed a profound change in the atmosphere of the house. That night, I stood at the top of the staircase once more, the weight of Margaret's presence palpable. "Thank you," I whispered into the darkness, feeling a warmth envelop me. I knew she was finally free. In the days that followed, Claire and I continued to share stories about Margaret, keeping her memory alive. The old house, once filled with secrets and shadows, now felt like a sanctuary of light and peace. The haunting of the dark streets. It was the year 2010, a time of change and ambition for my mother and her two aunties. They had all decided to pursue their long-held dream of becoming teachers, enrolling in a college nestled in the serene countryside. The area was picturesque by day, with sprawling fields and the soft hum of nature. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, it transformed into a different world altogether. The developing city had yet to embrace the modernity of bright streetlights, leaving the roads cloaked in shadows, each step they took echoing the uncertainties of the night. One crisp evening, as the clock struck 8, my mom and her two aunties found themselves walking home after a long day of lectures. They shared laughter and stories, their spirits high despite the cool night air. My mom led the way with my two aunties flanking her, engaged in lively conversation. As they strolled down the familiar path that only took 5 to 10 minutes to traverse, my mom glanced over her shoulder and noticed a figure trailing behind them. At first, she brushed it off. The girl was clad in the same college uniform, blending seamlessly into their routine. But something about the way the girl moved set off alarm bells in my mom's mind. There was an instinctive unease that crept in, as if the air around them had thickened. As they continued, the streets grew darker, the shadows stretching longer as the trees swayed in the wind. Suddenly, a chorus of barks erupted from the street dogs, a sound that usually brought comfort. These dogs were familiar with my mom and her aunties, often wagging their tails in delight whenever they approached. But tonight, their aggressive barking sent shivers down my mom's spine. It was as if they sensed something sinister lurking in the darkness. My mom's heart raced. She instinctively turned to look behind her, only to find the girl still there, maintaining a steady distance. Her aunties, noticing her distress, followed her gaze but saw nothing amiss. With every step they took, the girl seemed to mirror them, her presence an unnerving shadow that lingered just out of reach. As they approached the gate to their home, my mom felt a swell of relief mixed with trepidation. She glanced back once more, and to her horror, the girl had vanished. Panic flooded her mind, a sense of dread settling in her stomach. "Someone was following us," she announced, her voice trembling. Her aunties raised their eyebrows, dismissing her fears. "Huh? Nobody's there." They laughed lightly, teasing her for being jumpy. But my mom insisted, recounting the girl in the college uniform, her heart pounding as she tried to convince them. They exchanged glances, unease creeping into their expressions, but they ultimately brushed it off, attributing it to an overactive imagination. What my mom didn't share with them was the fear that had settled in her heart. She was pregnant with my little brother at the time, and in a province like ours, with its rich tapestry of folklore, being pregnant at night felt like walking on a tightrope. Tales of the Manananggal loomed large in the shadows, a mythical creature that preyed on expectant mothers. The stories told of how this demon could sever its own torso, sprout bat-like wings, and soar through the night, searching for victims to satisfy its insatiable hunger. Every time I heard those stories, a chill would race down my spine. My grandmother, protective and superstitious, would place cloves of garlic and salt around our home, especially near the windows, as if treating it like a fortress against vampires. The sight of those aromatic cloves brought me comfort, but it also deepened my fear. As days turned into weeks, my mom's unease only heightened. She noticed strange occurrences around the house, creaks in the floorboards, whispers that seemed to dance through the air, and shadows that flickered at the edge of her vision. One night, while she lay in bed, she heard a noise above her, a soft, crawling sound on the roof that sent her heart racing. Was it just the wind? A stray animal? Or something more sinister? The thought of the Mananangal crept into her mind, intertwining with her anxiety about becoming a mother. She would often wake up in the middle of the night, her heart pounding, as if sensing that something was watching her. One evening, as the family gathered for dinner, my mom recounted her experience of the girl in the uniform. The conversation shifted to local folklore, and my aunts shared stories of their own encounters with the supernatural. Laughter filled the room, but beneath the surface, an undercurrent of fear thrummed. Maybe it was just a prankster, my aunt joked, her laughter ringing hollow, or a lost student. My mom shook her head, recalling the feeling of being followed, the strange girl whose face remained etched in her mind. That night, as the wind howled outside, my mom felt an undeniable urge to check the windows. She moved quietly through the dimly lit house, her heart racing. The shadows cast by the flickering candlelight danced eerily on the walls, and she paused, gazing outside into the enveloping darkness. Suddenly, a flash of movement caught her eye, a figure darting past the edge of the yard. She squinted into the darkness, her heart pounding. It was fleeting, but the sense of familiarity gripped her. Had she seen that girl again? Summoning her courage, my mom stepped outside, the cool air hitting her face. "Hello!" she called, her voice trembling. Silence enveloped her, the night thick with tension. She took a step forward and then another, her breath shallow as she ventured deeper into the shadows. And then she saw it, the glimmer of white fabric in the moonlight, a silhouette standing eerily still at the end of the street. Her heart raced, a mixture of fear and curiosity compelling her forward. "Who are you?" she demanded, her voice steadier than she felt. The figure turned slowly, revealing a face that was both haunting and familiar. It was the girl in the uniform, but her expression was vacant, eyes reflecting a sorrowful depth that sent chills down my mom's spine. "You shouldn't be here," the girl whispered, her voice echoing like a distant memory. "The night holds secrets, secrets that should remain buried." Frozen in place, my mom felt an overwhelming sense of dread. "What do you mean?" she asked, the words barely escaping her lips. The girl took a step closer, her features becoming clearer in the moonlight. "You're not safe here," she warned, a strange urgency in her tone. My mom felt her heart race as she realized the weight of the warning. "What do you want?" she asked, desperation creeping into her voice. The girl's expression shifted, a flicker of something dark and menacing passing through her eyes. "You have something that belongs to me," she whispered, her voice barely a breath against the night. Before my mom could respond, the girl began to dissolve into the shadows, her form evaporating like mist in the morning sun. Panic surged through my mom as she realized she was alone, standing in the chilling silence of the night. The following days were a blur of anxiety and fear. My mom confided in my aunts, recounting her encounter with the mysterious girl. This time they listened intently, their previous skepticism replaced with a deep concern. Together they decided to fortify the house against the darkness. They stocked up on garlic and salt, treating every window as a potential entry point for the unknown. But the encounter lingered in my mom's mind, a haunting reminder of the spectral girl who had warned her. Each night she felt the weight of being watched, the shadows swirling around her like a shroud. She found solace in the familiar sounds of the street dogs, their barking echoing through the night, a reminder that she was not completely alone. One stormy night, as thunder roared outside, my mom awoke with a start, drenched in sweat. She felt an overwhelming urge to look outside. The storm had transformed the familiar landscape into a haunting tableau, the rain cascading in sheets, and the wind howling like a wild beast. Peering out, she spotted a flicker of white fabric moving through the downpour. With a pounding heart, she rushed outside, heedless of the storm. "Who are you?" she shouted into the chaos. The figure turned, and my mom's breath caught in her throat. It was the girl again, but this time she looked different, her expression a mixture of sorrow and determination. "Find the truth," the girl urged, her voice barely rising above the storm. "You must discover what lies beneath the surface." And just like that, she vanished into the tempest, leaving my mom standing in the rain, drenched and bewildered. Driven by an insatiable curiosity, my mom decided to dig deeper into the legend of the Mananangal. She spent hours researching in the library, poring over ancient texts and local folklore. She discovered that the Mananangal was once a woman, betrayed and cursed, condemned to wander the night seeking vengeance. The more she uncovered, the more she felt a connection to the girl who had warned her. Was this spirit seeking redemption? Or was it a warning to protect her from a fate she could not foresee? Armed with her newfound knowledge, my mom felt compelled to confront the girl once more. She returned to the spot where she first encountered her, a mixture of fear and determination propelling her forward. The night was still, the air thick with tension as she called out into the darkness. "Show yourself!" she demanded, her voice steady. The shadows began to shift, and slowly, the girl materialized before her, her expression now softening with understanding. "You seek the truth," the girl stated, her voice a gentle whisper. "But truth comes at a cost. Are you willing to face what lies ahead?" My mom felt her heart race, the weight of the moment pressing down on her. "I want to understand," she replied, determination shining in her eyes. The girl nodded, a glimmer of hope flickering in her gaze. "Then follow me." The girl led my mom through the winding streets, the darkness enveloping them like a shroud. They reached an old abandoned house at the end of the street, its silhouette looming against the night sky. "This is where it all began," the girl explained, her voice echoing in the stillness. Inside, the air was thick with dust and secrets. My mom felt a chill creep up her spine as the girl gestured to a staircase spiraling down into darkness. "The truth lies below," she urged. Taking a deep breath, my mom descended into the unknown, her heart pounding in her chest. At the bottom of the stairs, a dimly lit chamber awaited, filled with remnants of the past, old photographs, mementos of lives long gone. In the center of the room stood a mirror, its surface clouded and murky. The girl stepped forward, urging my mom to approach. "Look," she whispered, her eyes locked onto the mirror. My mom stepped closer, her heart racing as she gazed into the depths of the glass. Images began to swirl, revealing moments from her life intertwined with the girl's past. She saw the betrayal, the heartbreak, the darkness that had consumed the girl's spirit, transforming her into the Mananangal. My mom's heart ached with understanding. "You were once a victim just like me," she realized, tears streaming down her face. With the truth laid bare, The girl turned to my mom, her expression a mixture of sorrow and hope. "You have the power to break the cycle. Will you help me find peace?" My mom felt the weight of the choice before her. To help this lost soul meant facing her own fears and embracing the darkness. As the words left her lips, a warmth enveloped the room, and the girl smiled, her form glowing with light. "Together, we will find redemption," she said, her voice echoing with a newfound strength. They gathered the remnants from the room, symbols of the girl's past life, and together performed a ritual to release the spirit trapped within. My mom felt the energy pulsating around them, a connection forged in understanding and empathy. As they completed the final incantation, a blinding light filled the chamber, illuminating the darkness. The girl's form began to dissolve, her spirit ascending toward the heavens. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice echoing in the air. "You freed me." Emerging from the house, my mom felt a profound change within her. The night no longer felt as oppressive, and the darkness seemed to recede. As dawn broke, the first rays of sunlight spilled across the horizon, casting a golden hue over the landscape. Returning home, she shared her experience with her aunties, their faces a mix of disbelief and awe. They listened intently, the fear that had once gripped them now replaced by a sense of hope. In the weeks that followed, my mom's confidence grew. She embraced her pregnancy with joy, the connection to her unborn child deepening with each passing day. The folklore of the Manananggal became a part of her family's narrative, a story of resilience and courage passed down through generations. And as for the girl in the college uniform, she became a symbol of strength, a reminder that even in the darkest moments, one could find light. My mom often told this story to my little brother, weaving in the lessons learned and the importance of compassion. Years later, as I reflect on that eerie chapter in our lives, I realize that fear can often lead to understanding. The darkness may still linger in the corners of our minds, but it is through facing our fears that we discover our true strength. And in the end, it is not the shadows that define us, but the light we choose to embrace.